She left me for her boss, but I became his boss's boss. When she walked into our apartment that night with a smile too big and a heart too empty, I already knew. I didn't need her words, I'd seen the signs. The late nights. The sudden perfume. The way she looked at me like I was holding her back. She didn't waste time pretending. "I think we should take a break," she said. My chest tightened, but I kept my face calm. "Because of him?" She blinked. "It's not like that." I smiled bitterly. "It's exactly like that." It was her manager at work. Slick, confident, older. He drove a foreign car and wore tailored suits. The kind of guy who made promises to bored women stuck in safe relationships. I was building myself up slowly, finishing my MBA, saving to launch my own business. But she didn't want someday. She wanted now. And he had it. That night, she packed a small bag and left. No tears. No fight. Just silence and the echo of everything I thought we were. The next morning, I got up early, ran 5 miles, and opened a fresh notebook. At the top, I wrote one line in bold letters. "Built something no one can take from you." In the weeks that followed, I went dark. No parties. No distractions. Just me, my laptop, and a brutal routine. I pitched a startup idea I'd been refining for months to a few former classmates. 2 believed in it. 1 invested. We got to work in a shared workspace with broken coffee machines and leaky ceilings. But the hunger in that room? You couldn't fake that. While she was sipping cocktails at company parties with her new man, I was surviving on vending machine dinners and 4 hours of sleep. And I loved it. Every second of it. Because every late night brought me closer to something real, something mine. 3 months in, we signed our first major client. 6 months, we had to hire. 9 months, an offer came in to buy us out. I said no. I didn't want money. I wanted position. Power. Leverage. I wanted revenge, not the screaming kind. The silent kind. The kind that shows up wearing a better suit than the man she left me for. The kind that walks into the room and makes people stand. 1 year after she walked out, I saw her again. By accident? Maybe. Or maybe the universe has a twisted sense of humor. She was walking out of her office building downtown. I was across the street, stepping out of a black car after a meeting with a potential partner. She paused when she saw me. I didn't wave. I didn't speak. I just looked at her the same way she once looked at me, like she was small. She blinked, then looked down and hurried off. Yeah, that moment? That was just the beginning. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't stop hurting all at once. It bleeds out slowly in moments you don't expect. Like when I caught myself making coffee and instinctively pouring a second cup. Or when I'd hear a song we used to play in the car and my fingers would hover over the skip button, frozen. But I never let the pain show. I funneled every drop of it into my work. Pain is fuel when you know how to burn it right. By the time our company was approaching its 2nd year, we were no longer the scrappy underdogs in a crowded market. We had clients with names people recognized. We had revenue. We had respect. And I had something even more valuable, clarity. I didn't want her back. I didn't want apologies. What I wanted was the life I knew I deserved, and I wasn't going to stop until I had it. One afternoon, during a partner meeting, my co-founder pulled me aside. He was holding his phone, scrolling through LinkedIn. "You're not going to believe this," he said, turning the screen toward me. There she was, smiling in a company group photo. And next to her? Him. The same guy she'd left me for. Only now his title had changed. He'd been promoted. He was running their entire regional division. I stared at the screen for a long second and then handed the phone back. "Good for him," I said. And I meant it. Because I had no intention of playing in his league. I was aiming higher. In the background, my team had started working on a project that would change everything. We were developing a platform that would disrupt their entire business model. Faster, cheaper, smarter. The kind of solution that executives don't just notice, they scramble to either acquire or fear. We filed patents. Hired aggressively. And right as the buzz started hitting the industry press, we received a message. It was from a senior director at her company. He wanted a meeting. When we walked into that boardroom, I wore the sharpest suit I owned and kept my face unreadable. They wanted a partnership. A licensing deal. Something to keep us close, keep us friendly. I listened politely, nodded at the right moments, but inside I was already 10 steps ahead. A month later, I made a counteroffer, acquisition. We buy them out. Not merge. Not partner. Acquire. And the offer wasn't just talk. We had the capital. We had backing. And most importantly, we had leverage. Their numbers were slipping. Ours were rising. The deal took weeks to finalize. Due diligence. Lawyers. Negotiations. But in the end, we signed the papers. The company she left me for? It was mine now. All of it. And with the ink barely dry, I walked into the building not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as the new owner. Her boss, the man she'd chosen over me, was sitting in his office when I entered. He stood, forced a smile, extended his hand. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said. I shook his hand. Firm. Calm. Things change. We spoke briefly. Corporate pleasantries. Formalities. Then I laid out the new structure. Departmental shifts. Budget reevaluations. Performance reviews. He nodded, trying to maintain his composure. He knew what was coming. They always do, deep down. As I left his office, I passed her in the hallway. She was talking to a colleague, mid-laugh, until she saw me. Her smile vanished. Her eyes widened. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then, almost in a whisper, "You?" I didn't stop walking. Just looked her in the eyes and said, "Welcome to the new management." That night, I stood at the top floor of our building, looking out over the city lights. The journey had been brutal, lonely, and at times soul-crushing. But I'd made it. Not just to prove something to her or to him, but to myself. I had built something no one could take from me, and I was just getting started. The weeks that followed were nothing short of poetic. I didn't fire him immediately. That would have been too easy, too fast. No, what I wanted wasn't some dramatic scene with slammed doors and shouting. I wanted them both to feel the slow tightening of consequences, the subtle shifts in power that they could neither stop nor reverse. I started with a budget. His department, her department, got hit first. Realignment of priorities, we called it in the internal memo. Projects were cut. Perks were slashed. Leadership roles were reassessed. Suddenly, his meetings started getting shorter, his emails returned with delays, his influence thinning like smoke. And she? She went from a glowing centerpiece of the office to just another name on a spreadsheet. I heard from HR that she tried to schedule a one-on-one with me. Twice. I declined both. She even tried catching me in the elevator one morning, stepping in as the doors were about to close. I didn't look at her. Didn't greet her. Just stood in silence until the ride ended. Her reflection in the polished elevator doors told me everything, nervous glances, shallow breaths, the weight of regret settling behind her eyes. And yet, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. Something in me had shifted. The success, the control, it was intoxicating, sure. But more than that, I had found clarity. The pain she caused me had become the spark that ignited something far bigger than our relationship ever was. I no longer needed to prove anything to her. But that didn't mean I was done. I began restructuring the company from the inside out. Every inefficiency, every outdated system, every ounce of complacency, they were torn down and rebuilt. I brought in fresh talent, new blood, people who had fire in their eyes and hunger in their work ethic. The culture changed. We weren't playing defense anymore, we were setting the rules. I knew I had their full attention the day the press release dropped. A major industry blog ran a feature on us, the startup that swallowed its competitor whole. Her former company was now being referred to by the media as a division of ours. Subordinate. Absorbed. The comments on the article were filled with speculation, praise, even envy. But all I could think about was how far I had come since the night she left me, standing in the doorway of our old apartment, convinced she was trading up. A week later, he was gone. Resigned by mutual agreement, though everyone knew it wasn't mutual. I let HR handle the details. Severance, transition paperwork, access termination. I didn't attend the farewell lunch. I didn't need to. I heard it was quiet. Awkward. She didn't speak much. And I didn't hear her laugh in the office again after that. She was moved to a different role, one that didn't require interaction with me. It was better that way, but she still lingered. I'd catch glimpses of her sometimes. In the cafeteria. Walking through the lobby. Always with that distant, haunted look. One afternoon, I returned to my office to find a handwritten note slipped under the door. No envelope. Just a single line, scribbled quickly, "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. She had made her choice when she walked away from me, and I had made mine when I decided not to chase her. Now, the distance between us wasn't just emotional. It was structural, hierarchical, and she was the one looking up. But here's the strange part, I didn't feel triumphant. Not in the way I thought I would. There was no victory dance, no chest-thumping moment of glory. Just a quiet sense of completion. I had turned the worst thing that had ever happened to me into the best decision I ever made. And now, the path ahead was mine to choose, clean, powerful, and finally free of the weight of the past. There's a strange kind of peace that settles in when you've already lost everything once. After the betrayal, after the heartbreak, after the nights staring at the ceiling wondering what went wrong, you stop fearing loss. You stop needing validation. You start building not from a place of revenge, but from a place of clarity. That was where I stood now. I had nothing to prove, yet everything in front of me to create. Months passed. The company continued to grow under my leadership, tighter and sharper than ever before. We expanded into new markets, launched new platforms, and brought in new investors who didn't just see numbers on a spreadsheet, they saw fire. My fire. I traveled more, spoke at conferences, sat on panels. My name was starting to carry weight. Not because I chased status, but because I delivered results no one else could. And then one evening, I returned from a red-eye flight to find her waiting in the lobby of our headquarters. It was late, almost 10 p.m. Most of the building was dark, quiet, but the front desk had let her in. She stood as I approached, her arms folded, eyes tired. "Please," she said softly. 5 minutes. I looked at her, and for the first time in years I didn't feel anger or pain. Just distance. Like watching a movie I'd already seen, knowing exactly how it ends. I nodded. We went to a small meeting room. She didn't sit down. Just stood there, fidgeting, searching for words. I heard about the acquisition. About everything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Her voice cracked. I thought I knew what I wanted. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. I watched her as she spoke, and for a moment I felt sorry for her. Not because I still loved her, I didn't, but because I could see in her eyes that she genuinely believed she could fix something that had been shattered far too long ago. "I appreciate the apology," I said finally. "But that version of me? The man you left? He doesn't exist anymore." Her eyes welled up. "Is there any chance? Maybe we could talk sometime? Not like before. Just something." I shook my head gently. Some doors don't open again. Not because they're locked, but because what's behind them no longer fits who we are. She left without another word. That night, I sat in my office overlooking the city skyline, reflecting on the strange way life folds in on itself. A year ago, I was just a man she walked away from. Now, I was the man she'd never reach again, not because I climbed higher, but because I grew past her. I had learned how to live without her, thrive without her, and become the kind of man who no longer chased ghosts. The irony? She helped create that man. Every lie, every betrayal, every smug look she gave me when she thought she was trading up, it all became the scaffolding I built myself on. People think revenge is about destroying others. It's not. The real revenge is building a life so powerful, so undeniable, that their memory can't even touch it. From time to time, I'd still see her in the building. She kept her head down now. Worked quietly. The sparkle she used to carry, that careless confidence, was gone. She looked older somehow. Not in years, but in weight. In consequence. She wasn't the villain in my story anymore. Just a character whose role had ended long ago. And me? I had other plans. Bigger acquisitions were on the horizon. International expansion. Partnerships with companies I used to dream about. Every meeting room I entered now came with respect before I even opened my mouth. I wasn't chasing success anymore. I was success. It's strange how silence can feel louder than any argument. After that night, after her quiet apology and my equally quiet refusal, everything fell into a rhythm. A rhythm where her presence no longer disrupted my focus. Where seeing her in passing felt like spotting a shadow from another life. I had moved on. Not into another relationship, not into some romantic redemption arc, but into something more powerful, purpose. I started mentoring younger entrepreneurs, people with fire in their bellies and nothing but debt and dreams to their names. Every time I sat across from one of them, I saw myself. Not the broken version she walked away from, but the one who clawed his way out of that darkness. I didn't give them pity. I gave them strategy, accountability, vision. The kind I had to teach myself from scratch when all I had was a notebook and an ache in my chest. My company wasn't just surviving anymore, it was setting industry standards. Publications ran stories about us monthly. Awards, panels, interviews, podcast invites, it was like the world had finally caught up to what I already knew. I belonged here. At the top. Not because I stole anyone's place, but because I built a place no one else saw coming. I created something from ashes and pain and forged it into steel. And then, one day, something happened that surprised even me. I got a message from someone new on the executive team. A woman from another division. Brilliant. Fierce. Direct. She requested a meeting to discuss an initiative, and I agreed. When she walked into my office, she didn't stumble over her words. She didn't try to impress me. She got straight to the point, her ideas sharp and focused. By the end of the hour, we had a plan in motion, and I found myself smiling, not because I was interested romantically, but because for the first time in a long time, I met someone who reminded me of myself. Over the next few months, we worked closely. Late hours. Early mornings. Strategy sessions that turned into debates that turned into laughter. It wasn't about filling a void. It was about building something new. Something earned. And through it all, I never once thought about the woman who left me for her boss. Not out of spite, but because she simply wasn't part of the equation anymore. She'd become a footnote in a story that had evolved beyond her chapter. Eventually, she resigned. No drama. No goodbye. Just an email to HR and a box of things quietly removed from her desk. I wasn't in the office that day, and I didn't find out until later. But when I saw her name on the exit list, I paused for just a second. I thought about how everything had come full circle. She had left me for power, for position, for someone who looked like success. And in the end, I became the very thing she thought she was choosing, only better. Not because I crushed her or him, but because I didn't let either of them define me. I stood at the top of the skyscraper one evening, watching the lights of the city blink unlike stars in reverse. I wasn't just some boy she left behind. I was the man who rewrote the story. Not just mine, but everyone who had ever been underestimated, betrayed, counted out. The ultimate revenge isn't rage. It's not even success. It's indifference. It's peace. I walked away from the window that night with a calm I hadn't felt in years. My past was behind me, locked and buried. My future? Wide open. And my present, this life I built brick by painful brick, was finally enough. If you've ever been broken, if you've ever been left behind, if you've ever felt like you weren't good enough, remember this: you don't have to chase them. You don't have to fight for space in someone else's world. Build your own. Make it so big, so undeniable, that the people who walked away from you can't even see where it ends. And when they look up again, they'll realize they were never the story. Just the start of it. If this story hit you deep, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful, real-life revenge stories. You won't want to miss what's coming next.